Wow. Well, welcome everyone to this incredibly beautiful place on this very, very special day. My name is Wade Crowfoot and I serve as our California Natural Resources Secretary, and I'm one of many, many team members of the governors and the first partners here to celebrate this remarkable milestone. I can say today too, Happy Earth Day. Over 50 years ago, it's 54 years ago, that Americans from across our country came together alarmed and outraged around impacts to the environment. Polluted air, toxic water, rivers literally on fire. And that first Earth Day spawned ultimately the environmental movement that we advance today. Now fast forward 54 years, California is now leading the world combating the environmental crises of our time. Accelerating climate change across the world and its impacts on people and nature. The loss of natural places and this richness of life called biodiversity we have across our planet. Brutal inequity across the world and at home, and it's California leading the way. I'm so proud to be standing here in front of both Governor Gavin Newsom and First Partner Jen Siebel Newsom. As you and our legislators and California's leaders really lead the way, slashing carbon pollution as the 5th largest economy in the world, driving us to a clean energy and a clean transportation future. Amazing. Protecting California's communities and natural places from fires and floods and droughts and extreme heat and sea level rise. Restoring this incredible place that we call California, one of the world's biodiversity hotspots, and doing it in a way that restores partnerships with the original stewards of our lands and ensures that all Californians can get outside and enjoy these places as part of the Governor and First Partners' core governing pillar of a California for all. So there is no more fitting place to celebrate today, Earth Day, and these priorities and our progress than Dos Rios. We stand at the confluence of two of California's great rivers, the Tuolumne and the San Joaquin, stewarded since time immemorial by California Native American communities, stewarded over the last century plus by agricultural families producing food across our state, and now soon to be stewarded by our state parks for the enjoyment of all Californians. Let's give everybody a hand. And if you are here today, there's a good chance that you played some role in bringing this part of California to this present chapter. And so huge thanks. We have tribal government leaders, we have local government leaders, we have state officials, really leaders too numerous to name by individual. But we just want to say thank you for getting us here. And we want to thank, again, the original stewards of our land. So it's fitting that we kick off our program with the Governor's Tribal Affairs Secretary. So please join me in welcoming Christina Snyder-Ashtari.
I'm going to be using notes because I can't quite go off the cuff like Wade can. Ka'ashkadan Kotdiwa. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the First Partner for hosting this lovely event in celebration of Earth Day. Before I acknowledge the land that we're gathered on today, I'd like to briefly touch on the reason why we do land acknowledgements, so that everyone can better understand and commit to the values inherent in this important practice. When we do a land acknowledgement at the beginning of a gathering, we're acknowledging that there are peoples who belong to this very land, who are critical to its health and well-being, and vice versa. Since time immemorial, Native people have lived and thrived all over what is now California. This entire ecosystem has been a source of nourishment, purpose, and identity for the Native people of this place, from the dirt we're standing on or sitting on, to the native plants, insects, and animals that are a hallmark of California as a biodiversity hotspot across the globe. As California Native people, our origin stories tell us that we're one people of many who came before us. Bird people, bear people, coyote people, frog people, to name a few, each deserving of consideration and respect, and that we come directly from these lands. In fact, we name ourselves for the lands and waters that we come from. For example, I'm Mihila Kawana, people of the West Water, and Makamo, people of the Salmon Hole. Acknowledging this interconnectedness, we do the practice of land acknowledgement to make visible the original people of these lands, shift our worldviews, and commit to restoring the interconnected relationship where it's been severed through waves of settler colonization. So with that in mind, I'd like to now acknowledge that we're gathered on the ancestral homelands of the Miwok and Yokuts peoples, who are the traditional stewards of the land, plants, and animals of this place. As we celebrate here today, we pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and commit ourselves toward working toward meaningful voice, agency, and place for the Miwok and Yokuts as the original peoples of this land. Yahui, thank you.
Well, in just a few moments, we'll be able to hear from the governor and the first partner about the near-term future of this state park and opening it to California residents. And when that day occurs, the life that will be breathed into this park and this place will come from the women and men of California state parks and their partners who are welcoming residents into the state park in two languages, Spanish and English. And sharing more about what this place has been and what it is and what it will be, both environmentally, culturally, historically. And so I'm so pleased that State Parks asked a woman named Ali Manzo to join us to share remarks. Ali is a State Interpreter 1, which means she's an educator and will be an educator at this park, welcoming everyone in to Dos Rios and sharing more about what this place is. And I'm so thrilled that Ali, you have a background here and actually helped get these lands on their pathway to today. So please join me in welcoming Ali to the stage.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Hola y bienvenidos a todos. My name is Ali Manzo, and I would like to welcome you all to Dos Rios and thank Governor Gavin Newsom and First Partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom for bringing us together today. It's an honor to stand here at Dos Rios, not only as your state park interpreter, but also as a Central Valley native whose roots and passion have intertwined deeply with the soil and soul of this place. It's an incredible opportunity we have to bring this natural sanctuary into the lives of many who have not had access to spaces like this before. Being an interpreter, I cannot let you visit this beautiful park without giving you a quick interpretive lesson. If you look around the park, you will notice lush, green, beautiful trees. After all, this is a floodplain forest. But what we don't often think about is what is happening beneath us. Trees have an intricate web of roots that connects them together. These roots can serve as conduits for sharing crucial information about environmental conditions and threats. For example, the valley oak tree can communicate with neighboring trees, alerting them to changes in soil composition, water availability, or the presence of pests. And when an oak tree is on its way out, it will send its nutrients to surrounding trees. Much like the trees in this park, we are all interconnected. We are all part of Dos Rios' story by being here today and sharing its beauty. Growing up here in the Central Valley, I too have felt a profound connection to the land, a bond that was nurtured through my studies in earth and environmental sciences. But there's a particular memory that brings everything full circle for me. Back in 2015, long before Dos Rios was designated a state park, I volunteered here with the Tuolumne River Trust and River Partners. Little did I know that the saplings we planted would grow into some of the very trees that now provide shade and habitat within this park. Walking through Dos Rios today, I see those trees and I feel an overwhelming sense of connection and continuity. Now, as I work here, I realize that Dos Rios is not just a park. It's a community treasure that offers peace, adventure, and a vital connection to nature. At Dos Rios, we are committed to ensuring that this beautiful space is inclusive. Being a bilingual interpreter, I am proud to bridge linguistic barriers, making Dos Rios accessible to everyone. It is vital that every visitor, regardless of language, feels welcome and connected to this magnificent landscape. Estamos emocionados de ofrecer programas en español y de compartir la belleza de este lugar con todos ustedes. To see where my journey began and where it has led, right here where my professional path aligns so perfectly with my personal passions, is incredibly fulfilling. It's a powerful reminder that when you plant seeds, be they literal or metaphorical, their roots will spread in ways you might never anticipate. Oh, man. I told myself I wasn't going to cry. And sometimes they bring you right back to where you started. Thank you all so much for being here today. And your support in nurturing this park into a place where everyone can find a little more joy and a deeper respect for our natural world. And now, it's my honor to introduce first partner of California, Jennifer Siebold Newsom.
Ali, that was so beautiful. What a big heart. We know how important this park is for this community. Feliz Día de la Tierra a todos ustedes. But thank you, Ali, for your beautiful words and for grounding us in why we are together in the heart of the Central Valley on Earth Day, on this land that will soon be the home of California's newest state park. Your lesson about the trees, our roots, and their connectivity to the earth and the ecosystem around them reminds me of our connection to each other through partnership and our shared commitment to restoration, regeneration, and sustainability. Ali represents the next generation of climate stewards who are partnered with us here today, historically and into the future, to restore nature and environmental health in order to meet our climate goals so we can deliver a better future for our children and the planet. And one of the major examples of partnership, regeneration, and sustainability in action is a program that we've championed from the get-go, California Farm to School. When I think about Farm to School, I'm reminded of Hoover High School in San Diego, where I saw moms in community nurturing and tending to the school garden. I'm also reminded of Esperanza Elementary in Los Angeles, where students were so proud to give us a tour of their school garden and outdoor learning center as they regaled us about the beautiful produce that they were growing and its connection to Mother Nature. And last year on Earth Day, Anna Knight, a farmer at Old Grove Orange in Southern California, reminded us that Farm to School has leveled the playing field for so many local farmers by providing small farms with a path to sell their harvest directly to California school districts, our state's largest restaurant system, sustaining growers through a more sustainable marketplace and expanding climate-smart agriculture across the state. That day, sixth grader Joaquin from the Bay Area described how Conscious Kitchen, a California Farm to School grantee, introduced him and his classmates to seasonal salads made with fresh, organic, and locally sourced ingredients. He described not only the physical and mental health benefits of these nutritious meals, but also how hands-on education about the origin of his food has been life-changing for him and his family. And I could go on, because California Farm to School has been a win-win for our children, local economies, and our planet. And at its core, it's about healing through partnership and regeneration. And that's what today is all about. We are here today in Modesto at Dos Rios because, again, it is a wonderful, a beautiful, a magical example of the work we're doing to heal our environment and ourselves through restoration of this beautiful land and the protection of the endangered species who call it home. When it officially opens in June, the Central Valley, the beating heart of our state's agricultural sector, will become the home of California's newest state park. And it's been nearly a decade, and we get to bring local families all of the undeniable benefits of time in community together, having adventures, nurturing their souls, taking in peace. So thank you to our partners at California State Parks and River Partners. Oh my goodness, we're so indebted to you for undertaking this incredible partnership. And thank you to the Alice Waters Institute and UC Merced for the delicious lunch that you're about to eat, and the opportunity to break bread as we discuss California's sustainable, restorative, and partnership-oriented future. And so now it is my pleasure to introduce my partner in California's transformation, my favorite climate champion and steward, Governor Gavin Newsom.
Thanks, everybody. I guess we'll put the guy up at the end after those three speakers. And Wade, forgiving your remarkable comments. But let me just thank all of you for the privilege of the progress and marking this moment in that progress and the life, breathing life into this community. And I say breathing life into a community that has been under-resourced, underserved as it relates to parks and open space. The San Joaquin Valley, in fact, per capita, has the lowest per capita open space and parks of any other region in the state of California. And that's why this is so profound, and that's why today we need to pronounce our commitment to advancing the cause to continue to make real and make more gentle the life of this state. And I think that's the spirit of Ali's comments and Wade and Christina's comments, certainly the spirit of Jen's comments, is softening the edges of this state and breathing life, detoxifying our air, detoxifying the water in this state, and bringing life to the vision that was advanced in 1970, not just in this state, but Earth Day has propelled a consciousness of environmental stewardship around the globe. Of course, our origin story in the context of the vernacular that Christina brought to her comments, our origin story in California really began in 1967 as it relates to the creation of the California Air Resources Board, where California's environmental stewardship was anchored. It was the 1970 when, of course, Earth Day was established, but it was also 1970 when the Clean Air Act was established in the United States of America, interestingly by a Republican. There was no politics back then, or at least it seemed common sense was the ideology back then. Republican Ronald Reagan creating the California Air Resources Board, a Republican by the name of Richard Nixon establishing this framework in 1970. In fact, he picked up on that in 1973 with the Endangered Species Act that happened under a Republican administration. Of course, a few years later, you had a young guy by the name of Jerry Brown that started our leadership anew. In 77, we started doing incentives for solar and continued to accelerate that leadership as we do today. So it's a long way of saying we love to say about our state, the future happens here first. We're America's coming attraction, both in the extreme as it relates to heat, weather, drought, and in our response and responsiveness as it relates to a brighter, cleaner, greener future as we change the way we produce and consume energy, as we transition to this low-carbon, green growth future. So, here in that spirit and that light. Also, looking forward to the spirit that will bring life to the 281st park in our park system, the first new state park in a decade in the state of California, which is amazing. I want to thank, I don't know if he's here, there he is, Adam Gray, who is here. Adam was principal in securing 40 million. I saw our parks director raised his hand. He said, now, what about me? And yes, you're doing a remarkable job. And we're very proud of you and your entire team. And of course, we got everybody. Well, we got all the fancy folks here, and they'll all be saying hello and planting a tree. After they do the work, then they can speak. But I just want to thank Adam in particular, because he was critical in helping us secure the $40+ million that went into this project and all the dual use benefits of this project as it relates to not only preservation, but obviously the floodplain protection. That's a big part and component of this 1,600 acre endeavor that we are advancing. We recognize that capital appropriations are one thing, ongoing funding, challenged as it may be in this current environment, is altogether something else. We're mindful of the responsibility to be sustainable as well, not just situational into the future. And that's certainly part of our medium and long-term strategies, despite some short-term challenges as it relates to the current budget situation. But we are here for the long haul, and we're here to advance the vision that I know all of you care so deeply about. So anyway, I just want to thank all of you. I want to thank the team. Wade, it's the best job in the world. Every time I call this damn guy, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, the phone barely works. I say, well, where are you? And then it's, what's left of some glacier, or he's, there on Mount Whitney, or, White Mountain. I said, there's a place called White Mountain. I didn't even know. And he's talking about the Eastern Sierras, not just the Western Sierras, and deserts, floodplains, and forests and grasslands. We're blessed. And, it's not lost on me in closing. I was kind of, for the first time all these years, taking a little bit for granted the seal of the state. And you see that sun rise over the flag, and right below it, of course, biodiversity, it's represented by definition in the flag itself, and of course those poppies underneath. I mean, everything's an expression of the abundance that is California, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. 105+ million acres, size of 21 state populations combined, thousands of miles of just the most pristine and beautiful deserts and forests, the oldest creatures on planet Earth, the tallest creatures on planet Earth, all here in abundance. And we're here in closing, not to take that for granted. So much of climate change and climate crisis is discussed in greenhouse gases, not enough in biodiversity, not enough in working lands, not enough in terms of a regenerative mindset, as Jen brought to the conversation around healthy soils and regenerative farming and farm to school. And we're trying to shift that vernacular. We did it with an executive order a few years ago, becoming the first state in the United States with this 30 by 30 initiative. We did that in October of 2020. We're advancing that in partnership with the Biden administration today. We continue to lead, including final words, with this, what we call an RPS for biodiversity, an RPS for natural and working lands. We are the first state. No one's ever done this. No one in the world has ever been more ambitious to make a commitment in the next 20 years. We talk about 2045, if it's hundreds of years in the future, it's just 20, 21 years from now, to set aside half of the lands in this state, to make, to breathe new life into those lands, not to preserve and protect them, but to create a different construct, a different framework of consciousness as it relates to this renewable portfolio standard for biodiversity and lands, connecting habitat corridors, wildlife corridors, and connecting us, thank you again, Ali, for the spirit of your conversation, to one another and to nature, and yes, to our Creator. So thank you all very, very much for being here. Congratulations on this gracious and glorious day, and happy Earth Day, everyone.
And it's truly, truly incredible. And I want to double down on the governor's appreciation to our state parks team and Director Armando Quintero and the men and women who actually made this reality here. I visited about 6 to 9 months ago, and none of this infrastructure was here. So you all have moved very quickly. And with our first partner and our governor wanting to ensure that we could open up the park quickly, I appreciate that what we see here is only the beginning. A community-based planning process that's going to help bring more to this park and strengthen the connection of park goers to the water and the 1,600 acres here. So huge appreciation for your creativity and ambition. And then I'll also just thank the team across our state, and many of whom are here today, that established these nature-based solution targets that Governor Newsom mentioned. California is an undisputed global leader in setting strong climate action targets and then meeting them, and whether that's on renewable energy or transportation or buildings. But while we've done amazing work on environmental conservation and amazing work on climate action, today, for the first time, we integrate the environmental conservation work that we do and put it in direct service to meeting our carbon goals. We know we have to reduce pollution significantly, but we also need to improve the health of our landscapes to actually remove carbon dioxide from the air, the natural carbon cycle. And improvement of our lands through the governor's new targets are going to help us meet that 2045 state law mandate we have to maintain our economic growth as the 5th largest economy in the world while achieving carbon neutrality or net zero carbon. Yes, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it with our lands thanks to these targets. Now, I'll let you in on a secret, which is projects like this often aren't started by elected officials, no offense, Governor, or agencies or departments. They're started by environmental conservation organizations and community-based groups that have a vision and bootstrap their way into a project like this. And the origin story of Dos Rios is very much that. An organization called River Partners that's born and raised in the Central Valley, working in partnership with the agricultural community to identify areas of land to conserve. And a remarkable conversation that started over 15 years ago with the landowner here, the former agricultural secretary for the state of California, Bill Lyons. Bill Lyons ultimately selling the land to this remarkable conservation group called River Partners. And River Partners beginning that work with volunteers like Allie, long before it ever realized that this could be a state park. So to give voice to that journey, I am really proud and pleased to introduce my friend Julie Rentner, who leads River Partners.
Oh my goodness, what a day. I'm going to keep it short because we have an action to take next, which is really exciting. We're planting a tree. This is something River Partners knows a thing or two about. It's going to be fun. We've had the pleasure of leading this project, and I'm a proud mother of 3, but this one actually feels like my first baby. This is like a graduation. If you were here about 16, 17 years ago, my friend Patrick, where are you? There you are. My friend Patrick Copel, Tuolumne River Trust, was first standing on the banks of the river here with Bill Lyons, going, wait a second, there's a conservation project here. It's a big one. How are we going to get this done? Secured funding to get going on planning. Patrick actually called us up to say, let's work together on this, right? And it took us years. We joke about it, 19 amendments to the purchase agreement to finally get to the point where 9 different funding programs were all pieced together and aligned in the right way to finally secure the fee title ownership of this land so we could rejuvenate it. Back then, when we stood on the banks of the river, we were looking at laser-leveled cornfields with big vision. I mean, rivers that are drained, you know, soil that's been worked for a long time. And we stood there with big vision, and we invited people out, and we said, come on, don't you see it? It's going to be a forest. It's going to be swales and mounds. It's going to be this beautiful living place. And a lot of people said, you're crazy. And a lot of people said, I'll come along with that vision. I don't have time to list all the people who said that. Let's come along with this vision. But that belongs to every single person here, and then about 17 times as many people, right? The delivery of this park to state parks and turning it into something that the public can enjoy in California is a result of so many people dedicating their time and their lives and their energy. So I want to give you a gift because you're here on this special day. It's free and it's fun. I want you to come along with me in this gift. So I want you to take your hands and put them together like this, okay? I think there's one person here who's already seen this. Sorry, Rebecca. Your wrist, imagine that's the Golden Gate, okay? Point your left thumb up at the sky as much as you can. Imagine that's Mount Shasta. Now point your right thumb up at the sky. What's that? It's Mount Whitney, right? Now bend your fingers up. There's the Sierra Nevada. every single crease in your fingers is all of those rivers draining off of our watershed down into the bottom of the valley that's in the palm of your hands, right? So this is what we work to protect. This huge community of people, this is what we work to protect. The people, the communities, the agriculture, the ecology in the bottom of this valley and in those mountain slopes, the culture and the history of the people who came before us, and the incredible economic driver of California, right? We have, what, 10 multi-billion-dollar industries here? It's insane what this watershed does. And so it's also crazy that it takes so long to get all the money in place to do projects like this. I am so stoked about California's climate commitment. 2045, I mean, let's bring it. Let's do this. It's huge. Thank you, all of you, so much for what you do to make this real. Thank you, State Parks, for taking this on, bringing this baby into its next chapter, and using it as a place where we can share this story with all of California about how much we need to reinvest in making our systems work for the future. I get the crazy honor, and you can tell I'm deeply insecure about it, to introduce our ultimate speaker. Another amazing woman is getting to the podium today. And here's the things that I can say about her as she works her way up here. This woman, starting back in the 50s in Stockton, was teaching kids, and she said, you know what, this lifestyle, these kids are facing stresses and challenges, this isn't right. And it's not enough as a teacher, I can't change the factors that are causing the suffering for them. I'm gonna become an activist, and she became a farm worker activist. And she started the Stockton chapter of the Community Services Organization in 1955. What were you, 4 years old? How did you do that? Fast forward a few years, she started the Agricultural Farm Workers Association. Fast forward a few more years, she met this guy, Cesar Chavez, and she was like, come with me, I'm doing amazing things, let's go. Together, they started the American Farm Workers Alliance, or the National Farm Workers Alliance that eventually turned into the United Farm Workers Union, which we now know is incredibly powerful, UFW, right? Amazing activist, amazing leader, love for this deep Central Valley and all of the beautiful things that it has, from its ecology to its people, its communities, its waters. This woman has been recognized in her life, lots and lots of awards, the Eleanor Roosevelt Human Rights Award, the Presidential Medal of Honor. But I think you'll all agree with me that there's something about this woman that lives inside all of our brains and probably also even in like the tissue in our hearts. It's so simple but so important. It's driven presidential campaigns to success, these 3 tiny words, right? To me, they feel more like a prayer than a slogan. Yes, we can. Sí se puede. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the amazing activist, rabble-rouser foundation that we're all standing on today, Dolores Huerta.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me share this really important moment with all you. Thank you, First Partner. Thank you, Governor, Mr. Koku. Thank you all. And Allie, thank you so much. And when I started to shed a few tears there, I thought, oh my God, I think I'm going to do the same thing. And coming here is like coming home to me. As was said earlier, I was raised in Stockton, California. And of course, the rivers, the Delta was so much a part of my growing up. You know, as young, we would go out to the river to have dinner, go out there and we'd fish and catch, we'd go fishing to catch some fish and some black bass and really good fish out there. And growing up, when we would, on weekends, of course, the family, you'd always go, you would go to your picnic at the edge of the river. And as young adults, we would go out there partying and going clubbing, after going clubbing, where we would end up at the river, okay? Yeah, we would end up at the river, get a case of beer, get some hot dogs, and get a little, one of those little music boxes that you could carry, and we would party all night at the river till the wee hours of the morning. And that was just standard. I mean, just growing up, the river was so part of growing up. And so coming here, as I said, is like really coming home. And then, of course, I remember when we went to Delano, California, going from Stockton and all the water to Delano. And my kids, I remember we were driving into Delano, and they were looking around, and they were seeing everything, and it looked so desolate, and they were so sad because they miss the river. They miss the water, you know. Well, now I live in Bakersfield, and we do have a river there, okay? We do have the Kern River, which everybody's working hard to save the Kern River in Bakersfield, California. But we know that nature is so important to all of us. I was in Los Angeles yesterday, and at a nice event there at the Skirball Center, and someone was saying to me, "Where do you live?" In Bakersfield. And the person said, "I like to go to Bakersfield. I like to go to the Central Valley, because when you go to the Central Valley, you get to see all the greenery." And I thought, that is so great, you know, because sometimes they don't know that we exist, right? They know there's Los Angeles and San Francisco, and they forget there's something in between. And this is why the state parks are so important, because so all people could enjoy them, not just us that live in the Central Valley, but all the people that live in Hollywood. My daughter was a teacher in Los Angeles, and she would bring up some of her students up there to the headquarters of the United Farm Workers at Keene, California, and the kids were so thrilled to be able to get out of the city. And so we've got to figure out a way to make all of these parks more available because here we take it for granted. But people in the inner cities, they don't. And so they need that healing of nature that all of us enjoy, you know, just by being here in the breadbasket of California, the breadbasket of the world. And I do want to say also that the farm workers, people think of the farm workers as being out there, the essential workers that are producing our food and feeding us every day. But, you know, they don't just work in the fields. They care about nature. They care about nature. They care about the plants. You know? They care about the way that the plants are tended. I remember when they brought in the mechanical pruners. You know, they brought in some mechanical pruners to prune the grapevines, and they were concerned that they were not pruned properly, and they were actually going to hurt the vines and not help the vines. So when we think of all those people out there that are feeding us, we just have to remember them, that not only are they feeding us, but they're also taking care of the plants and the products that feed us also. So, and when you were saying about the connections of the trees and connecting us, all of us together. So this is our connection that we have, the connection of food. Now we have this other connection that we have as we celebrate Earth Day. So back in the 70s, when Earth Day was being celebrated, we were concerned about pesticides. We were concerned about our water, et cetera. And now what are we concerned about? Now we're concerned about saving our planet, right? To make our species as human beings that we can survive. And so you might say that the challenges have been definitely, they have been upped, you know, and that we have more work to do. But again, I think the only way that we're going to be able to make this happen is to make sure that we all work together. I can say this again from Kern County, which is Governor Newsom's one of his favorite places. And when we are fighting, trying to transition, as the governor has ordered, to transition from fossil fuels to green energy. And I can say to you that we, as the community organizations there, the Doers Foundation, our other community groups, that we have a big fight on our hands. And we're going to need everybody's help. We have been able to get our people elected on the different boards that are going to be able to hopefully vote on some of the proposals and projects that are coming through, but we are terrified. We are very terrified. And so we need all of the help that we can from everybody, any ideas that anyone has, that we can somehow make sure that it does happen, that the resources and the money that is going to go to create these jobs, you know, that are good paying jobs, so that we can make that transition from fossil to green, that it actually happens, okay? And that money does not go back to the people that created the pollution in the first place, all right? This is our challenge, so we have to work very hard. So, thank you all for inviting me, and I know that all of us together that we can really save our planet, you know, and that we can enjoy our Earth. And again, we can all celebrate this wonderful state park and make sure that not only ourselves but other people can also enjoy it. And I'm going to do the power chant. Is that okay, Governor? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so let's all stand up, please, for a second. And we know that we have a big challenge ahead of us to be able to save our planet, save our Earth, stop global warming, clean up our water, and do all of the things that we need to do. But the one thing that we have to understand, and the governor and all of his team have shown us the way that we have the power to do it. So I'll ask you the two important questions. The first one is, who's got the power? And I want you to say very loud, we've got the power. And when I say what kind of power, I want you to say people power, right? Okay, so let's shout it really loud so all of those that are against us can hear us, okay? We want them to hear us, okay? So let's go. Who's got the power? We got the power. What kind of power? People power. So are we going to go forward? We're going to celebrate Earth Day, we're going to celebrate state parks, and we're going to save our planet. What do we say? ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. Okay, let's all do it with an organized hand clap. Let's go. Sí, se puede. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Now we're going to plant a tree.
A big shaded, yeah.
Anyway, thanks for coming out. So June 12th, mark that on your calendar officially. We'll inaugurate. There's still some name-changing technicalities that we need to advance in the state, but we're ready to land on that commitment in June and make this the 281st park in the state system, and then commit as part of that transfer to the state's park system, commit to its stewardship for generations to come. But it's part and parcel of an effort to step up our game, particularly as it relates to acquiring state parks. We were in a park acquisition binge for years and years, and then we frankly neglected it as we neglected the maintenance and the deferred maintenance within the existing park system. We felt like we reached a threshold a few years ago that we can start to turn our attention to more acquisition and really start focusing on park poor regions within the state of California. And so this symbolically and substantively sort of marks a commitment and a resolve to continue forward momentum to address those gaps and make here a very bold commitment, 1,600 acres for this site, and to have the support with the legislature, the support of the state, and of course philanthropy and all our remarkable partners is testament to the community engagement. And so again, it's great to be out here, and happy Earth Day. With that, happy to take questions.
What's it like to get to plant this tree and be a part of the soil here?
Well, I mean, look, it's always fun to plant trees. I was a bit of a fanatic. I was in a competition with mayors all across the country when I was mayor of San Francisco on a tree planting binge. Eat your heart out, Los Angeles. I only mention that because we started numerically to challenge one another, because some communities said tree planting was just putting seeds in the ground. We actually believed in putting seedlings, or at least more mature trees. But it's, look, it's something you can't take for granted any longer. The hots are getting a lot hotter, dries are getting drier. With these atmospheric rivers, we're still battling that. I mean, so much of the deficit this year is addressing the impacts of those atmospheric rivers last year and the impact that had on our tax delay in terms of our tax collection. And by the way, that didn't just impact California, that impacted the IRS and it impacted the federal government's finances as well. These things are all connected. And so this issue of climate, this climate crisis, addressing the issue of pollution and polluters is foundational in who we are, and we're really advancing the most comprehensive strategies of any subnational jurisdiction anywhere in the world. I don't think that, I know that. And so we take tree planting seriously. We take our efforts to decarbonize and detoxify seriously. And we're not just, as Wade said, meeting our goals, we're exceeding those goals. Our electric vehicle goals, we're 2 years ahead of our targets. And I think that's one of the most important things that I want to communicate on Earth Day. When we set targets, California meets those targets. And I know they're stubborn and tough, and the next iteration are even tougher still, but we're resolved to advance those efforts in a way that grows our economy and brings communities along.
Governor, the nature-based solutions targets that were announced today, can you talk about what success would look like for executing those goals?
Well, they're audacious. I'm not naive. You've heard me quote Michelangelo in the past in this context, that the biggest risk in life is not that you aim too high and miss it, it's that you aim too low and reach it. These are stretch goals, unquestionably. The 2020 executive order on the 30 by 30, those were stretch goals as well. The good news is we're making real progress, and we'll be aided and embedded by that with an announcement that'll be forthcoming as it relates to the federal government's commitment to set aside land, federal lands under national monument status here in the state of California. But we recognize the goals that we set forth with this RPS of sorts are audacious by standards that exist and persist today, but absolutely achievable on the basis of the progress of yesterday and the commitments we're making tomorrow.
Governor, you spent your first day in office here in the Central Valley, and you were here just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's
at
true.
Santa Nella for the Canal Solar Project.
Yeah.
And here you are again today. A soft spot for Central Valley?
Yeah, I mean, look, Dolores wasn't joking about Kern. I'm down there with her all the time. It's not flyby country with me. I drive through. And when I say I drive through, I mean, it's almost my weekly commute as I go up and down the state of California. I've been here well over 100 times as governor, and I remember being challenged by expectation. People said, "Oh, you're some kid from San Francisco. You don't care about the Central Valley." And I said that I appreciate your reference to the clean drinking water commitments we made and the fact we secured $130 million a year that wasn't able to be secured in the previous administration as a commitment to Monterey Track Park in that first visit here in the Valley. And we said we're going to keep coming back. And it's not about an electoral map for me. It's about morality. It's about ethic. It's about one California. We talk about California for all. We mean that sincerely. And I'm really proud. I was with Jerry Dyer a couple days ago on issues in Fresno around encampment resolution grants. He was just with our team as it relates to youth summer jobs programs. And I'll be with him tomorrow with the big 13 mayors talking about these Regions Rising Together partnerships that we formed in terms of economic and workforce development, partnering with Fresno Drive and former Mayor Swearington, who I'll also see tomorrow at a philanthropy summit. I say that as proof points of the commitment that we have to the Valley. That's why I look at the high-speed rail not as a rail project, but an economic development project about upzoning and about creating a deeper consciousness in the Valley, that the Valley is, yes, the breadbasket to America, but it's also so much more. The human capital that resides out here, the innovative spirit that resides out here is also alive, and I want to bring that wellspring to the fore. And so I'm gonna run through the tape. I got 3 more years, plus or minus, a little less, and I'm gonna continue to make a case for the fastest and one of the most dynamic regions in our state and our country, and that's the Central Valley.
Yeah. You mentioned your rivers. Were you able to quantify how much flood prevention was done here at Dos Rios and other locations?
Well, I love that question, and maybe with some of our experts we can talk about that. Look, those atmospheric rivers, you remember it was December of last year we had that first anomalous storm, and then it kept coming in January, February, and March, and April, over and over and over again. The president came out here on multiple occasions, unprecedented amount of flooding, and a big framework of focus was looking at the issue of drought and flood, both and. I mean, you come out of one of the most extreme and acute droughts in our history, and then some of the wettest years in our history. The notion of extremes was brought to consciousness. And as a consequence of that, we started looking much more aggressively and very differently at the rules and regulations that govern stormwater capture, groundwater replenishment. I did an executive order in that space, how we capture more of these extremes. It looked at our water plan and the water portfolio we put out. We put that out just a few weeks ago, mindful of how we capture those extremes. And a big part of capturing those extremes is going back to the beginning. Begin at the beginning. nature-based solutions. Mother Nature, she knows how to do this. These carbon sinks, the real carbon capture, which is planting a tree, and the ability to look at these natural systems a lot more dynamically. And so that's what, I think inspired Adam and others in the legislature to provide the appropriation to have this dual-use strategy of conservation and flood protection. And now, of course, the consciousness that's part of this new RPS through 2045, we're looking at all our open space in that concept of dual use. Biodiversity, natural, and working lands. So it's both and. It's no longer binary where people were looking at a zero sum, fighting each other for scarcity, but now realizing the capacity to do many things at once.
Governor, an off-topic question for you. We heard on MSNBC your conversation surrounding abortion laws in Arizona and Alabama. We just want to ask you, talk to me a little bit about the motivation behind California getting involved in the situation there and the need for resources.
Because it's already impacting the state. We've had a 17% increase since Dobbs of people accessing reproductive care in the state of California. It's already placed a burden on our healthcare system, particularly in Imperial counties and Riverside counties. Concern about San Diego County, some of those border counties, particularly as it relates to the impacts of an 1864, I'll repeat that, 1864 rule that was codified by the Arizona Supreme Court. I mean, this is a court that wants to bring us back to the 19th century. And as a consequence of that, we know on the basis of the past that people are going to come into the state of California. The Planned Parenthoods in and around the border region have already been impacted. And so we're trying to get dual use licenses to allow doctors from the state of Arizona to participate and support reproductive care in the state of California on a temporary and urgency basis. And I'll be announcing with the Women's Caucus actual legislation to do just that on Wednesday.
Governor, can you talk about how speeding up the licensing of Arizona abortion providers would help abortion access within Arizona? Is the idea to try to expand access here? Can you talk about
Yeah, it's in the frame that I just advanced that we are going to absorb it regardless. We're already absorbing it. You've had 65,000 births due to rape in 14 states that have banned abortion in this country. I just don't think people fully even absorb that. 65,000 births due to rape that have already occurred in 14 states. In 2023, we had a record number of people had to leave their states. 1 in 5 Americans that seek reproductive care had to leave their state to come into another state. I highlighted in Alabama what Tennessee and Oklahoma and what Mississippi tried, but Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Alabama are currently trying to do to make it a criminal offense, a felony, 5 years in jail, if you aid and abet and support someone leaving their own state to get reproductive care. That's how extreme some of the laws that are being promoted are, including the Attorney General of Alabama, who says he wants to file conspiracy charges against anyone, a grandmother that helps her daughter or her granddaughter from an abusive relationship to get them reproductive care. And I just think, with respect, that's extreme. And California will, on the natural, absorb that burden, and for some, that responsibility for others. And we just want to do it in a way where we can actually utilize the benefit of resources that are being promoted but can't be accessed unless we change the rules. And so we're working with the California Medical Board and others to create a licensing regime through for the medical board itself that allows these temporary licenses until the voters ultimately in Arizona can overturn, which I imagine they will, on the basis of what's happened in other states, the extreme Supreme Court decision that was just established there. So again, we're already absorbing that. We just want to now get support from out-of-state doctors to help us with that.
Last question. Any last question?
Governor, yeah, you mentioned on the podium, you touched on it very briefly about the budget deficit. What do you have to say to the people that think that this money could be used better elsewhere?
Well, I don't know. Folks here, I imagine, are proud of this project. They'll be the beneficiaries of this project. Their kids, their grandkids will be the beneficiaries of the project. California has unprecedented record reserves. California had $75 billion of cash just a few months ago. I submitted a balanced budget. We've already made substantial reductions in the budget deficit. You're going to hear from the May revise shortly how we'll balance the budget. We also just finished distributing the most significant tax rebates of any jurisdiction in U.S. history, $18.1 billion of tax rebates. In fact, December was the last checks that went out. I think we can do all of that and look, on planet Earth last year was the hottest year ever recorded. Don't think it's about to get better. And these extremes are the new norm, this new reality. And we're trying, as I said a moment ago, trying to soften those edges, make more gentle a life of this community. And no community is more impacted than this community in terms of air quality and health-related issues. And that's why we think it's right to be here announcing this rather historic moment in terms of this investment and this remarkable partnership. And again, to River Partners, next level rock stars that made this all possible. Thank you guys very much.